Welcome. Jennie Wise here from WiseMind Soul Warrior. And I am so honored and grateful and excited to have Archana Gupta on with us here this morning. She is one of our WiseMind Soul Warrior students. She's also a mentor this year. And I'm just so grateful to have connected with her. So she's also an E200. So Archana, if you want to take a moment to just introduce yourself and kind of tell us a little bit about your yoga journey and how we connected and what kind of brought you to the training, what attracted you to WiseMind Soul Warrior?
So I kind of got into the whole yoga thing I used to practice yoga as a child and through my teenage years, and through my 20s, but that was more from a physical aspect.
Mm-hmm.
8 years ago, I went to rehab because I was a raging alcoholic, like truly. And I rediscovered yoga because that was one of the activities that we had was yoga and meditation. And I really, really felt that I could, focus inward and feel like the breath and all of that just it just really resonated with me. And so when I came out, I started practicing yoga regularly. And then one of my yoga teachers said, "Hey, you would be a really good kids yoga instructor."
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, okay, how would I go about what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
So she told me of a training and I went and got certified to teach kids yoga. And it was like a win-win for me because I love kids and I love yoga. And so it was just a lot of fun. And then after that, I was like, I don't want to just teach kids the benefit of yoga. I
Mm-hmm.
want to be able to teach adults the benefit of breath and mindfulness and then the yoga asanas and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we came to be.
Yeah, it's really interesting because you know that I'm a big believer in this, and I'm not going to say it again because I'm a firm believer in the universe connects, the dots that we can't possibly connect, and so the fact that you saw, the stuff on Facebook, that was back in 2020 that we
Yes.
connected, and the fact that you're in Maryland and I'm in North Carolina and we had not connected before that, that it brought us together. And now here we are in the 300 program and you're now going to be a mentor. So it just it's just, again, a total universe thing that we're
The
here.
stars aligned.
Yeah.
We were meant to come into each other's orbits.
Yes. Yes, no doubt. And you and I have so many things in common too, as far as like we both come from a corporate background.
Yes.
We both struggled with burnout and stress. We both struggled with, many samskara patterns. Speaking of samskara patterns and transformation, kind of share so far with the work that we've done and the work that you've done in the training. What are some things that you feel that are some skills that you've gotten? It could be, we really try to emphasize like stress resilience and emotional resilience, and like yoga for stress is a big one, or yoga for mental health, because you and I have talked about this too, that, and I think you share some of this, that my story as far as yoga and mental health goes way back almost 10 years ago, where I had anxiety and depression. And that's what led me to walk into that first yoga class, was a counselor, a therapist recommending me trying yoga. So that is behind my little bit of my story of why I'm as passionate as teaching these skills as I am, because that was part of my healing journey. So share as far as like your journey around, it could be yoga for mental health or stress resilience. And also, what are some skills and some transformations that you've seen? Maybe it's specific patterns, you know, around like loving yourself more or letting go of perfectionism. I mean, you know this, I have about every pattern, about every pattern out there, including being a workaholic in the past. So tell us like what, you know, what's been the transformation or the skills that you maybe use on a daily basis that has resonated for you?
I just kind of want to back up a little bit.
Yeah.
I when I was in my early 30s, I was a workaholic, and
Mm-hmm.
I was in the corporate world. I was a government consultant. I would, deal with the government agencies and everything. And then I had a brain aneurysm 18 years ago. And when I recovered from my aneurysm, I kept trying to go back into the world that I was in,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't the same person anymore.
Right.
And I had memory issues. I had I didn't have the same stamina I used to have. I didn't have all of I shouldn't say any of the skills, because I still had my people skills, but
Mm-hmm.
um I there was a lot of things that I was lacking in after my aneurysm.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a like really vicious cycle. Like, I would get a stressful job, and then I would start drinking to try to deal with that and everything. So when I got sober and I started practicing yoga, and I met you, like the whole meditation and mindfulness and pranayama, those two things in particular really just settled with me,
Mm-hmm.
because you know, I, we all have this monkey mind, right? Like all of
Mm-hmm.
us have this busy mind where we're like, oh, I've got to do this. Oh, I've got to do that. Oh, I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And oh, I forgot to do this. Oh, or did I do this right? And so it's like this whole thing of like
Mm-hmm.
this constantly moving brain.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole concept of meditation and pranayama just helped me to still my mind and become more centered.
Mm-hmm.
Did I answer your question?
I think so. That definitely, you definitely address that. You went deeper into your meditation and your pranayama and your mindfulness practice. So to me, that is definitely some of the key components of what we want students to get out of this, because, you know, pranayama, asana, meditation, I mean, those are the three pillars of yoga, but oftentimes many students miss the meditation and the breath work, and they don't really realize that if they were just sitting on their mat and breathing, they'd be doing yoga. Like, it's as simple as your breath and sitting in an easy seat or a child's pose and breathing, and you're doing yoga, right? So many students, as you know, have a misconception that they have to be doing handstands and these crazy vinyasa classes and like all these other things in order to be doing, quote, yoga, which is not the case. And that's certainly not the style of yoga that we want to promote. We want to promote more of a breath to movement, slow flow to yin, a very kind of therapeutic style, almost like a moving meditation,
Right.
is what we're promoting here at WiseMind. So, and I would love to know, like, have you seen, we were talking to Nita about this earlier, and I would love to know if you've seen this, because I know I've seen this change in myself as far as like being able to pause more, you know, pausing between stimulus and response, or not pushing yourself as much, like the older tendencies of like workaholic or burnout or perfectionism. Have you seen any of that as far as like changes in your like samskara behavior patterns or thought patterns?
Yes. I I have a quick temper. I mean, you probably don't believe that, like, just from our interactions,
Mm-hmm.
but I get mad and I get over it, like this.
Mm-hmm.
But since I've started doing this whole process of, yoga psychology and working with you, I have found that I now take a breath
Mm-hmm.
when something upsets me and I think about what I'm going to say and
Mm-hmm.
then I say it. So that whole stopping and breathing
Mm-hmm.
and then responding has really helped me
Mm-hmm.
to maintain like a level of calm
Mm-hmm.
that that so now that's why I'm creating the calm toolbox, like,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like in our society these days, people, there's a stimulus, then they react right away, and then that person reacts to their reaction. And it's like all of a sudden, when people are just busy reacting to other people, like each other, the whole, the whole, the whole concept of communication, like healthy communication, kind
Mm-hmm.
of gets thrown out the window. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
No, it makes total sense. And
Okay.
I'm right there with you. Like, that's why we teach emotion mind, right? So, what you just described about getting angry, and when you're in that like quick second before you pause, that is emotion mind. And that is a psychology term. And wise mind is a psychology term. And you know this, you've heard me teach about this, that there's
Mhm.
the emotion mind of when you are angry and you react and you say and do things you wish you could take back. And
Yeah,
that often happens in relationships or with the people you're closest to. And then there's the logic mind and the person that is like they respond from logic. They're not like you and I. They're on like the way other extreme where they actually have to take emotions into account to be able to be in the middle path of wise mind. Right.
right.
So it's also part of that self-discovery process that we teach of like what type of person are you, right? Most yoga teachers and most healers and most, students that are in our space, like in a healing modality space, holistic healing, are going to usually be an emotional based person. And oftentimes they'll be an empath and a
Right.
highly sensitive person. But I'm explaining like the logic side for those of you that maybe you may have interacted with somebody like that, in the past, that maybe you really had a hard time. Like that was kind of one of the things with my dad and I, because my dad is like super, super logical, like engineer brain, right? He's super, super smart. um, and he does have emotional intelligence. It's not that he does not. It's just that we were always coming from like two different perspectives.
Mhm.
Mine was, as you can imagine, and I know you relate to this, is coming from the emotional side, right? But I love what you said about that. Just like it makes my heart so happy, and like it brings me so much joy to be able to hear you say that you have now embodied this and you're practicing this in your daily life of
Mhm.
being able to pause between stimulus and response, because you are, like you said, creating um, calm in the chaos. Like you are creating a legacy of peace starting with
Right.
you. And you probably remember me talking about this, and I'll continue to. We were in the mastermind to start before we went into the training of like learning to watch yourself, like through witness mind, where you're watching yourself like a movie. That's how you're watching the thoughts and emotions, and you're able to stand back and watch
Mhm.
and observe and pause. And now you're doing it. So it kind of goes from like the wisdom and the teaching to the practicing to the embodying. And I
Right.
feel like you're to that point of starting to embody that. Does that make sense? And that
Yes.
takes longer to get there, right? That's going to take more like 6 to 12 to 18 plus months of practicing right before you're actually embodying it. And then the new pattern happens and you're responding differently because the new neuron pathway has been created. But I just want to say that for people that it's baby steps, because for the people out there to be like, well, wait a minute, like I just meditated for 5 minutes, or I've been meditating for, 2 weeks. You're going to start to see changes, but they're small changes on a monthly, basis. You have to keep going with it to be able to create a pattern that is changed, because you can change a habit in 21 days.
Right.
It's not going to stay where it's an automatic response until you've been doing it for more like 6 to 12 months, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's why having support and accountability, like what we give you in the program, is so important, is to have that accountability of other people in the group that are like-minded, that are trying to make the same changes and behavior patterns and do the same like inner work, if that makes sense. So I want to acknowledge you. Like, that's like super proud of you that you are like embodying that and you're living that, because that's probably one of the greatest gifts and one of the greatest transformations that you can make, because you're taking that patience. It's patience, really. I mean, you're able to be patient, right, with yourself and everybody else around you. So what a gift that you've given to yourself and everybody else, because you're also practicing mindful self-compassion.
Exactly.
And I know that wasn't something that you may have
Not
practiced
at all
in the past, right?
Yeah. I at least now know what it is, and I practice pranayama or meditation or even just some simple asanas, and focus on my breath to quiet down, not to shut it out, but to quiet down that talk.
Right. To quiet the
Which,
mind.
yeah. And my father passed away this past November, and I really don't feel like I would be able to be as healthy. I don't know what the right word is, as sane, like as mentally with it that I am now, if it hadn't been for the WiseMind Yoga psychology training that I've had, because like you have taught us, like you have guided us into being self-compassionate, to being kinder to ourselves, to stop, like to kind of quiet out the negative talking that goes on in our head. And that has been like huge for me, because in order to calm the monkey mind, or the bouncing around mind, or whatever you want to call it, you have helped me to build up those skills to help quiet that negative talk or that bouncing around. Because it's not just negative talk. It's, I'll be like, oh, I've got to do this. Oh, no, I've got to do this. Oh, I've got to do this. And it's like all this stuff starts to build up. And I'm like, oh, and I don't have a paper and pencil to write this down. And I don't have, and it's like this thing that keeps working on itself, like working and like building up. And now I'm just kind of like, you know what? If I remember it, great. If not, it'll come back to me at a later point in time. I really have stopped sweating the stuff that, like the 1,000 item action item list, right? Like, I've stopped like keeping like a list of everything I need to do. I'm like, it'll get done when it gets done. Like, I'm not stressing about stuff like that anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Well, first of all, let me just say again, I'm so sorry about your father, and I'm really honored, really, to hold space for you and to be here to support you and to be a guide as you go through your healing process, continue your healing process this year. So I just want to acknowledge that I totally, I understand what you're saying as far as like sanity sometimes outside of like just the global pandemic that's happening, and then to add something like that you're experiencing on top of that. So I'm honoring you that you've also like done your own healing work to lay the foundation to stay in a state of mental wellness through the whole healing process. So I want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you.
But yeah, I was just talking to Paige about this yesterday, about that checklist thing. And like looking back at myself, 10, 20, years ago. And yeah, I would come up with these lists, and I'm sure you can relate to this, that were probably like, I might be exaggerating a little bit, but it could be 100 things on the list.
You're not exaggerating.
And I could have maybe realistically gotten 5 to 10 done. Like that's the kind of unrealistic expectations that I would put on myself. And I know you can relate to this. And then I would self-sabotage, and Paige and I both talked about this, and I know you get this. I would beat myself up about the things that I didn't get done. And I would base my self-worth on my quote productivity and how much I got done, right? My self-worth as a human being based on what I did or did not get done, which is, and now in retrospect, like looking back, is crazy. But now I can see like, wow, okay, I'm not what I do. I'm who I am. And I'm also like not putting these unrealistic expectations on myself anymore, right? Because I am more gentle with myself. And I know you do too. Like that's what this mindful self-compassion is about, because I've been in that place, and I know you have too, of like ruthlessly beating myself up.
Yes.
We talked about like the equating it to a ringmaster yesterday with a whip of like, like it's like constant, and then you've got like the bossy inner critic that's like, pointing a finger at you all the time and telling you how terrible you are and judging you and that you're not enough. And, so believe me, I get it. But I'm here to tell you, it also is the longer you practice this thing, these practices, the easier it gets. And talking about the monkey mind, like, the part of the brain that does the monkey mind jumping is called the default mode network. And they've done studies at Yale and other places where they've done a 10-minute meditation, and they've put, I think it's the MRI that they do the brain activity. And it has showed like significant reduction in activity in the default mode network part of our brain. And that is the part that jumps from one, like a monkey, right? That kind of ADD type all over. And so I'm here to invite, the people that are listening or watching this replay, that you can significantly reduce that part of your brain. And that's part of what gives you that calm in the chaos and allows you to be able to start to become a master of your mind and control your thoughts and emotion and behavior, that cycle, right? Okay, so tell us a little bit about the learning management system, about like some of the parts of the training that you've seen, like the fact that I'm doing a group coaching once a week, usually in the program, some of the support that you're getting with the Facebook group, or can you share just a little bit about that? Your experience could be around the manual or whatever.
Sure. So everything is very well laid out. Like there's a learning management system. Isn't that what it's called? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And things are very clearly laid out there. Like they have the title, the section, and then within that section, there's whatever you went over in a class. And if there's any handouts that are associated with that class, on the left-hand side, there's a list of the handouts. And it's very like user-friendly. And then you also have the yoga classes
Mm-hmm.
and the pranayama sessions and the meditations, and it's all there. Like, you just go into this learning management system and everything is very clearly broken out. It's very user friendly.
Awesome. Well, I love to hear that because we have tried our best to make it user friendly. And, in addition to what you just described, that we also do like a syllabus, that there's each
Yes.
module has a syllabus and you can print it out or download it and then you can check it off. And then the manual, again, is by module and you can download it or print it out either way.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that.
That's okay, but I did want to mention that. And I also wanted to say, for those out there that are yoga teachers or are wellness coaches, or they may want to eventually teach meditation or breath work or mindfulness or yoga psychology or cognitive behavioral change, right? It doesn't have to be just the asana practice, right? There's many forms of how you can teach yoga or how you can teach yoga psychology. And so for those out there that may want to do something like that, we actually also give you done for you handouts. So handouts that you can use to teach a meditation workshop, like the 3 common myths that most people run into with meditation, and in a handout, and also teaching you how to teach a workshop like that. In addition, any other done for you handouts that you want to use, like with coaching somebody else one-on-one or doing a group type coaching, program, we're giving you the done for you handouts. Right. So the only thing you can't use it for is obviously your own teacher training, but
Right.
outside of using it for a teacher training, you can use it, for your own group coaching business and program, basically. So you're getting done for you handouts, which is beyond what like a normal quote YTT is, right? Usually a normal kind of traditional YTT is like, here's your manual, here's your videos, here's your classes, here's your checklist. Like, this is also a group coaching program that I am coaching you. And in addition, if you decided to go do this with somebody else, I've given you everything I've done over the past 6 years that I've worked one-on-one with doing yoga psychology coaching. What I would do with somebody when I'm sitting down with them, I'm giving you all those handouts, right? Like the foundations of yoga psychology and all the things, like you guys have that. So that's huge for you to be able to take that workout for those that do join, that do want to do that. Now, on the other hand, if you're not a yoga teacher and you're wanting to join to do this deep inner work and to learn these skills, then those students are welcome as well. Or someone who started a yoga practice and they want to go deeper into the practice or into their own personal transformation and healing journey, those students are welcome, because we've got over 50% of the group now are not yoga teachers in the traditional sense, like you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead, you were going to say something.
So I was going to say that a lot of the handouts and everything that you have within the book, like the manual, they don't just apply to yoga. And there's different activities that you can do that can even help. Like, I've used some of those activities with one of my private clients, and it's been very beneficial. Like, those handouts have been really beneficial as well.
Good. Well, that makes me happy to know that. And, one of the things I kind of like to think about yoga psychology as, in addition to somebody who may be doing talk therapy, right, with a counselor, or they might be seeing like a psychiatrist if they're on a medication, like somebody that's bipolar may be required to be on a medication, they may have a chemical imbalance. And then we have other students that, they've done talk therapy up to this point, and they've gotten to a certain point on their healing journey, and they're wanting to go deeper into some of these other mind, body, breath type practices. So, and then we have some students that, may continue with their meeting with their counselor in addition to being part of the program. So it really depends on where they are in their journey and what specifically they're dealing with, right? Whether what their trauma was, or what, or different mental health challenges they might be dealing with. So there's a wide range, of someone with like a severe anxiety disorder to
Mhm.
someone who may have slight anxiety, or someone who might be somewhere in the middle, or there might be someone with like a severe depressive, state that they're in, and they're really needing medication, to someone who might be lower on that spectrum of they're dealing with a low grade, lower, what we consider a lower level of depression, if that makes sense, that they might
Yes.
be on a little bit of medication or they may not. So just being aware of like the different spectrum and where that person is. But we have seen a lot of people that have been able to reduce medication that they're on, and they've been able to help their symptoms with these natural holistic practices that we're giving. So we can't be the ones, obviously, to like, I can't do anything, or anybody else, about like medications and all of that, because
Mhm.
obviously I'm not an expert on that. You need to talk to a counselor or a psychiatrist when it comes to that. But all I can do is speak to my experience and the students that I've worked with at this point, hundreds of students, that they have been able to, again, reduce their symptoms and do things like alternate nostril breath, which we call nature's Xanax,
Mhm.
for anxiety or for stress.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is that,
Yeah.
when we first started meeting, she just wanted to do asana. Like, she's like, "Oh, I need to learn yoga, blah, 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 blah." And I was like, "Okay." So then, as we were starting to talk a little bit more, I was like, "Okay, you need yoga, like, after we work on this other stuff." So, I started doing meditations with her,
Mm-hmm.
and she really just got so much out of them. And then
Mm-hmm.
I taught her the alternate nostril breathing and the box breath and
Mm-hmm.
the kumbhaka. And she was like, she's like, "Honestly, I just, my husband has said that I, like, am a totally, like, I'm a very calm, like, I'm a calmer person than I was." So it was like, "Yeah." And I said, now we can start doing the poses." Like, but I just felt like, in order to really get the benefit of the asanas, you
Mm-hmm.
need to be like in a centered mindset.
Well, I love that. I love to hear like the examples of you working one-on-one with students.
Yeah,
And
last time we met, I wasn't working one-on-one with people. I
yeah,
was just teaching classes. Now I'm just teaching one-on-ones.
yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because as you progress and depending on where you are in the process and what you're being called to do, like I still work one-on-one with students, but it's more so yoga teachers or people that are in the program. That's, I still work one-on-one, but it's focused on the people that are in Wise Mind Soul Warrior and those students. But
Mhm.
in the past, yes, over 5 years, I worked with the general public and everyone as far as supporting them and taking them on one-on-one. And then that's what I've taken now and put it into a group coaching program,
Right.
right? So, um, but you are able to do a lot of really, really good work working with somebody like that, like what you just described. And I'm super proud of you for like stepping into, your confidence, to feel confident also with your own healing and transformation process, to be able to take somebody else through that, because you've heard me say this, you can't take somebody through something you've not gone through yourself, right? You have to
Right.
go through that process and that healing, and then you can take somebody else through it. So now you're doing it. Like, that's amazing, that you're doing that. And I can definitely relate to the sense of gratitude and the sense of service that you have when you've taught somebody something like that, right? When
Yeah.
you've taught them about the breath or anxiety, or taking them through a journaling exercise, or taking them deeper into their meditation practice. Like, there's so much joy from doing that work.
This yoga psychology program that you've introduced to me and that I've gone through has given me the confidence to take things that aren't necessarily like yoga related, but I've incorporated it into mindfulness and all of that. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I just want to say that if you are feeling called to explore more about whether it's Wise Mind Soul Warrior, whether it's something else that you're struggling with, if you're struggling with depression or anxiety or burnout or stress, we've had a lot of students that have shared that they're really struggling right now. There is no like obligation, or you're not going to get pressure from me if you end up doing a consultation call. And we also have other programs, right? We have self-paced programs. We have other things that we can take you through the same material, but in a different way if you're not ready to step into a full supported program like Wise Mind Soul Warrior. Okay, so I would love, and I'm going to share that link in the comments. It's Wise Mind Soul, or calendly.com/WiseMind Yoga. That is where you schedule a consultation. So what I would love for you to describe, because you know me personally and you've known me for going on to probably over 2 years at this point, or going on to over 2 years, I think, is what was it like meeting with me for a yoga psychology consultation? And what would you tell people as far as like knowing me personally, like who I am as a person, when you're going to get on the phone with me, that I'm going to basically be like, tell me what you're struggling with. Tell me, what you're trying to resolve, and maybe we can find something that will fit those things that you're struggling with and that you're looking to go deeper into your healing journey. Okay. So tell me your experience with like meeting with me and what you would tell other students that don't know me, that maybe this is their first time. Like when you saw me in 2020, that was your first time seeing me online, and they may not know, they don't know me, right? They're just seeing like, what's this yoga psychology discovery call, and who the heck is Jennie Wise?
Right. So I am notoriously bad about keeping appointments that I have scheduled, like from a Facebook Live. Like, I'm really, really bad at keeping those appointments because, I'll schedule it and then I get busy, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot I was supposed to meet with this person. So after the 5-day program that you did, I was like, I got to meet this lady. What I'm trying to say is that I'm really bad about keeping those appointments, but like after listening to you, I really felt like your message resonated with me. So I was like, I've got to keep this appointment. So when I got on the phone with you, it was just like talking to a friend. Like, you were like, oh yeah, hey, and you were just so approachable and laid back. And I didn't feel like you were trying to sell me anything. Once I signed up, it's like everything has been accessible. When I send an email about something, everything gets responded to right away. I mean, it's just been like so, I don't want to use the word easy, and I've used that like 5 times in this conversation, but it's seamless. Like it was so, once I decided to commit to the program, everything has just kind of fallen into place. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
that's perfect, because I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm going to share that too, that, we can't put all the different options, on a page. It would be way too confusing. And so part of the process is obviously me understanding where you are in your healing journey. What have you tried so far? What's not working for you, right? What is it, like you're having problems in your relationships? Is it perfectionism? Is it workaholic? Is it depression and anxiety? Is it burnout? What are those things that you're struggling with? And then where do you want to go? And then I'm going to listen and I'm going to be like, okay, well, here's based on where you are, like energetically, where you are with like your readiness for change. You know, like if you're really like ready to change these things and you're aware, like that person's ready to put in the time and the energy it's going to take to do this inner work to make the transformation. They will put in the effort to do the sadhana and the meditation and the asana practices. They will put in, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it, like they will put in the time to do the journaling exercises, to do the deep inner work, right?
Right.
And so no one is ever 100% ready to do this work. Hashtag ready is a lie, okay? You will have to move past the ego and the resistance that's going to be there because you're safer in your comfort zone without making any changes. So in order to step into your full purpose and to step into the highest version of yourself, you have to go through a little bit of discomfort to get there because you have to release the things that are not serving you. And you can't live fully in your purpose and as step into like a leader and show up the way you need to for your students and everybody else around you if you're holding on to these things that aren't serving you anymore.
Right.
And so that's kind of like the conversation that we're going to have. And then if that person's ready in those areas, then we'll have the conversation about financially, let's make this work for you. Let's figure out a plan because I don't want that to be the reason that somebody can't join. And so you're a perfect example. And many other students that I've worked with, where I put together customized plans that worked for them at that time.
Right.
And if their financial situation changes, you know, I have had some students that are like paying it off sooner, you know, because they didn't want to continue paying that long. And so I certainly would not hold somebody to that if they came back and said, oh, you know, I just got a bonus or whatever it is, I'm going to pay it off. Okay, then fine. But if at the time, if they're in a financial place where they only can commit so much a month, then I'm going to try my very best to try to work out something that will work for them, just like I did for you. But I can't put all these different things like on the page, if that makes sense. Like I have to be able to have a conversation with somebody to be able to figure that out, right? And try to get as creative as I can, whether it's a registration fee or monthly fees or paying in full. Some people still want to pay in full, and there's bonuses for that because that it's worth it to them to get the bonuses or the extra discount. So again, there's different ways to approach payment plans or paying in full. So
yeah, and before I was in my current job situation of being unemployed, well, now I am kind of employed, but anyways, I used to pay everything off, like, because it's always like, to me, I'm like, it's always better just to have it done and paid and everything. But now it's like, I have no shame in asking, like saying, I can't afford this right now. Can we work something out?
Right. Yeah. And so thank you for sharing about that, you know, and being open with it. And there are many other students, again, that I've worked with to be part of WiseMind Soul Warrior and to work out things out with them. In addition to the mastermind before we started the 300 training. So, I mean, I've even gone down to like offering people every 2 weeks, that it comes out every 2 weeks instead of once a month. So that's what I mean by I will get creative and I will figure something out if you're really, you know, financially in a place right now where you need that extra help and support. I'm going to do my very best to try to make that work. Okay. Because I don't want that to be a reason, right? So I will do my very best. So tell us, Archana, what is your website? Can you tell me what your website is?
Sure. It's Yoga Fusion, FUSION, wellness.com. And it's a brand new website.
Fusion Wellness, Yoga Fusion Wellness. I want to make sure I spell that right. Yoga Fusion Wellness. That is super exciting that you have been, I know you've been working on this. Yeah. And like you said, that's a perfect example of you practicing your mindful self-compassion and being gentle with yourself. And also going with the flow of the timing of when things are meant to happen versus forcing something to happen, right? So that's a perfect example of that you're being gentle with yourself and you're saying, you know what, my intention originally was to do this in October, but it didn't get, other things, I got pulled into other life things that were happening. And so I had to put that on the, on the back burner, but now it's done. Right. And that's the important thing, is that it's done and that you've taken that aligned action, that you finished it. And like, so I again want to honor you and like super excited for you that you've taken that step, right? And I know that you're going to continue with doing the work that you're doing. And so, and I'm super excited for you to be, part of WiseMind and supporting as a mentor. And I cannot wait to see how that all plays out, and just like continuing to watch you and Carrie and other teachers and Lindsay and Chrissy and other people in the program that are going to continue taking this work out into the world. So I'm just like a, proud mama, like standing back watching you guys. Like really, it's like, it's so exciting to watch, like that you're doing it. You're living your dharma, you're living your purpose, and you're doing it one aligned action at a time.
Exactly.
One student at a time, one aligned action, one program, you're going, and I know you're going to do amazing work because you're living your story, you're sharing your story and you're living your purpose. And and that's only unique to you, right? So you're bringing in the students and the teachers that you're meant to serve and that you're meant to help guide, right? Which are different students than me, right?
Right. Yeah.
Which are different students from Carrie or Lindsay or Chrissy or anybody else in the program, because you have your own, we each have our own unique story, right? And we teach that in the program, right? What is your signature story? What is that thing that has brought you to yoga, that has brought you to wellness, that has been part of your healing journey, that you're now going to bring in those students that resonate with you and being able to serve those students, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. So I am super excited to just see what you continue to do with all of this. So anything else that you want to add, or anything else, if you if there was a student like listening in or watching the replay that you would want to say to that person if they're considering joining WiseMind Soul Warrior, what would you say to that person? Or the one that's like, oh, I don't know about scheduling a consultation, I'm scared to get on a call with Jennie. What would you say to those students?
Do it. Just do it, because this experience has been truly life changing, transformation. Like literally, when you say that something has changed my life like forever, this program has done that.
I so appreciate it. I'm going to put this up here one more time. It's calendly.com, WiseMind Yoga. As I mentioned, I've carved out time in my day. I've got some calls actually already scheduled this afternoon. I don't remember off the top of my head what time I put it today, but I know tomorrow I have carved out a few hours in the morning and a few hours in the evening. So if you're feeling called to do this, if you watch the replay, schedule a consultation, or you can schedule something with me next week. I've carved out time. As I mentioned, I don't usually carve out this much time in my schedule. So this is a short window of when I'm offering, my calendar to be that open to support you guys. So.
And can I just add something?
Yeah.
The consultation isn't just a consultation in terms of like, oh, well, about joining for the, like, you actually get good advice from Jennie about whatever your issues are while you're on the call. Even before you say, oh, well, I want to sign up. She treats this like a true yoga psychology call. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Thank you. And yeah, and I do. I mean, I really, I think it's from all the years and all the students that I had worked with one-on-one that I mean, you're exactly right. Like I try to help people and I try to make a recommendation whether they join the program or they don't, right? Like, and so it really is me generously giving in service of my time and my energy every time somebody gets on a call. And whether they join the program or they don't, again, there's no obligation. It's just me giving. And believe me, I have done hundreds of free consultations over the years, and some of those people joined programs and some of them we worked one-on-one and some of them they didn't. And that's okay, because the timing or the alignment or the finances or whatever it was weren't in alignment. But for the people that I am meant to serve and they are meant to step into whatever program it is they decide to join, if they do, we've got to have a conversation first. Right. And that's how we bring people into these different programs. Or you take the advice that I give you in the recommendations and you go out and you use that. And maybe a year from now, we connect again, whatever that is. But there is no obligation. And I am truly giving, what we would consider karma yoga, that I am generously giving of my time and I'm serving students without anything in return. So thank you for saying that, girl. I really appreciate that.
I just wanted to the whole karma thing. It's like when you give to somebody, then you get in return, and you gave to me, so I need to give you your props.
Oh, well, thank you, girl. I appreciate that. Really, like, it means a lot, really. So thank you. You know this, like I have given a lot. I have sacrificed a lot of things to continue running and supporting as I have for now going over 6 years since I started the yoga studio. So there's been a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of sweat and tears, and a lot that I've given to this. So, so I'm honored to take all the things that I know and all the things that I've learned and make it less time for the students that do join, because that's the most important part, is getting to your healing journey and learning these life lessons in a shorter amount of time and earlier in your life. But whether you're 30 or 40 or 50, you can still do this healing work. You're even in your 60s, right? Like if there are patterns or things that you want to change, you can change any pattern. You have to start with the decision that you're going to do it, and that you're aware that those things are no longer serving you anymore. And that is really like a big driver of what steps people into this type of transformation work, because you have to be ready. Like those things are absolutely no longer working for you anymore. And it's like you've made a decision that you are done with that. Okay. And you're moving on to to transformation, really. So, so I invite you guys to think about that, like making the decision that you are ready to change, whatever that is, whatever that samskara pattern is, or mental health, wanting to be more mentally well. You have to make that choice too. So I invite you to consider that. All right. So with that, girl, I want to thank you for your time and your energy.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And so much gratitude, again, that you're stepping into getting on a live video like this, and that you're willing to give your time and your energy and your support means can't even put words into the amount of gratitude for you and every person that has been willing to do this. So thank you. Can't say that enough. And can't wait to continue to work with you this year and seeing what you do with yoga, fusion wellness, and also as a mentor for us and helping other students and other teachers. All right, lady, we will talk to you soon. Okay.
All right, bye.
Have a beautiful rest of your day.
You
Take
too.
care.